What began decades ago as proxy jihad in Kashmir has now evolved into a far more sophisticated war architecture, one that combines radical ideology with emerging technologies. The book Jihad Tech Complex argues that Pakistan is not merely an unstable nation, but a system that has learned to sustain itself through controlled instability and perpetual confrontation. To discuss how Pakistan's future war doctrine could be shaped by the convergence of jihadist ideology and technology, I am joined by the author of this new book, Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan. Sir, the book you have written, The Pakistan's Future War Doctrine Will Be Shaped by a Convergence of Jihadist Ideology and Technology, has 2 points which really caught my attention, sir. One, sir, you said that the force multiplier becomes the force destabilizer for Pakistan, which is Islamization. And you said geography is both asset and liability for Pakistan. So let me begin by asking you, why do you say that Pakistan is a hostage to map?
You see, when you look at Pakistan, Karthik, and I had argued this in uh, my one of the articles that I wrote on the geography of Pakistan. Pakistan's an artificially created nation. On the eastern side, that is on the Indian side, there is a line of control which is absolutely disputed, and on the Afghanistan side, there is the Durand line which is also disputed. So Pakistan exists as a country which is actually illegal. On both sides, this line is disputed, and the geography itself, when you look at how Pakistan is going to defend itself, and when you look at the geography of its defense, to the north you find Pakistan has the Himalayas, but the Himalayas are a bulwark against the Chinese, and Chinese have to create. Given Pakistan's relationship with the Chinese, they have to create roads and etc. Everything to come inside. So it's not easy going for the Chinese because the Himalayas are new mountains. And on the other side, whom they consider their biggest enemy, India, there are absolutely no obstacles at all. There are disputed rivers, disputed lines. And in this area uh, between Afghanistan and India lies actually an illegal artificial country. And that's why I say that Pakistan geography is definitely not helpful to Pakistan. And that's the reason for a lot of Pakistan's own insecurity. And therefore, I have argued how Pakistan would plan to defend itself.
So I'll be jumping the topics because there are 15. But what really caught my attention will come first in the order. So in the 9th chapter, which is about the China, the mentor, the supplier, and the strategic enabler, that it's not Pakistan which is fighting us alone. It is fighting with help of other countries. Didn't Operation Sindoor demonstrate that? And what should be India's response? Because you need to acknowledge that. And once you acknowledge, then you respond to a problem.
Karthik, absolutely right. You know, the issue is that Pakistan does not have the capability to defend itself. So Pakistan has outsourced its complete security to China. And what has China done? China is using Pakistan as a live laboratory to test out its weapons. China is not testing it out. China is not losing any manpower. Chinese are losing nothing. But they're gaining all the information, all the data by giving these arms and weapon systems to Pakistan, and causing a problem between us and Pakistan, as a result of which China gains. Pakistan anyway is a country which is absolutely unstable, and it has used this instability within Pakistan to create its own ecosystem. So Pakistan, no matter how much we keep saying, and we keep talking about Pakistan is unstable, Pakistan is economically a disaster, but Pakistan continues. It continues to thrive. It continues to be taken by all the superpowers. So these are the illogical aspects of Pakistan's existence. It's illogical because it's being made use of by China. It's being made use of by the US. But in each one of these places, we have to see how China has made Pakistan a client state. And
Absolutely.
also the weapon systems that China develops, China plans to practice to see how these weapon systems work by forcing Pakistan or but forcing a conflict between us and Pakistan. That way, China gains information about weapon systems without losing any person at all.
So you argue in the book, as a thread that Pakistan, unlike other countries like China or, for example, even Russia other countries. It manufactured danger as a policy. You argue in the book that it thrives in this persistent ecosystem of disruption. You argue in the book that Pakistan transforms weakness into leverage, instability into currency. Now then how can India deal with that? Because you are dealing with a different sort of an enemy which wants to win without fighting a war, which wants to bleed you without committing soldiers on ground. So how do you fight that country? How do you change the behavior of that state?
Firstly, Karthik, this is a very good point that you brought out. My argument is that please stop thinking that we can change this behavior of Pakistan. It's not going to happen. So my argument is keep yourself prepared, keep yourself, you know, capable of taking on a destructive Pakistan. Pakistan has been unstable, will continue to be unstable, and it used this instability as a power to keep creating mayhem within India. And that power to keep creating mayhem within India is the power given to it by the Chinese weapon systems and the Chinese help and the Chinese economy, which is allowing all these issues. So India needs to be continuously prepared, Karthik. We need to continuously, uh, you know, make sure that India's weapon systems are the latest, because the moment we let down our guard, we will have a very, very big problem. And this is, there I find a lot of bleeding hearts to say, no, there can be Aman ki Asha, there can be this issue, there can be that issue. It's not going to happen. The ecosystem of Pakistan will simply not allow a rapprochement between India and Pakistan. The ecosystem within Asia will not allow this rapprochement to happen. So we have to keep ourselves capable all the time of taking on Pakistan, firstly, because Pakistan will always be used as a client state, and secondly, to deal with the recalcitrant China, which can keep creating a problem, not because it wants to come inside or not because it wants to fight a war with us, but because it wants to keep us unstable enough so that we don't rise.
So,
Yeah,
your third chapter is called The Captured Republic. Uh,
yeah.
you know, there have been news that, some sort of contact has been made with Pakistan. And you say that the Pakistani army has taken over the republic. Do you think that it has become a permanent reality? It's like Chinese Communist Party. You can't have democracy
Uh,
there. It's like KGB in Russia. It's like army in North Korea. It's like Pakistani army in Pakistan. Do you think that that is the reality? The state within the state is the state
Absolutely.
itself.
Absolutely, Karthik. The reality is that the Pakistan army will dominate its political space. There is no room for any other domination here. It's the Pakistan army. And if you see, yeah, even with the US in the recent Iran conflict and the fact that Pakistan was chosen as the mediator, it was the Pakistan army chief, the Field Marshal Munir, who was going up and down. He was the most visible person. So it is the Pakistan army that is going to dominate this space. And we should treat the army as the arbiter of Pakistan's decision-making process. And unless we understand what is in his mind and how armies function, Karthik, we will be continuously at an issue where we find politicians trying to deal with an army, which is not going to deal with you in the same way normal countries deal. So with Pakistan, you have to keep your guard up. With Pakistan, you should never believe what they say. And the thing, my argument continuously is throughout the book that Pakistan is modifying its madrasa education. Pakistan is creating an army, not just an army of regular forces, but an army of irregular forces. Those irregular forces are being trained to do coding, are being trained to deal with all the other irregular parts of any kind of operation. And in today's gray zone warfare, in today's cyberspace, in today's cyberspace, in today's nuclear warfare, these gray zone irregulars are going to be a part of Pakistan's army's capabilities.
They,
We have to add that in.
you know,
So
you,
just don't end at counting the number of people that Pakistan has under its in the army. You have to count the irregular forces also.
Absolutely. So when through the book, you have also said that when you served in these areas, in the cold, uncomfortable bunkers, you were dealing with people who were ideologically trained. and it made the war cheaper, because your argument in the book is when Pakistan realized it can't win a war with India, so they
Absolutely.
came up with this entire idea of irregulars which they had already tested in Afghanistan. So they
Yes.
started trying it out in Kashmir. Now that made their war against India cheap, because first they were exporting their men from Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Punjab, and subsequently through radicalization they didn't need to export them. They were using the local boys. That made it cheaper. But when we go to your chapter 8, which is drone and denials, drones are part of the regular army, and the Iran experience has shown that how drones have made regular warfare cheaper and
Absolutely.
asymmetric, and it has the capacity to take on bigger powers because it is cheaper. So what is the Indian challenge in context of these drones which Pakistan is importing from China and Turkey?
Indian challenge is to deal with these issues, is to deal with the irregulars of the Pakistan army, to deal with the fact that the Pakistan state is going to be supported by, and we saw this in Sindhu, it's going to be supported by Turkey, it's going to be supported by the Islamic nations in West Asia, it's going to be supported by Iran in many cases. And all these issues are going to get together to put pressure on India. So if Turkey and Iran can make cheaper drones, you can be absolutely certain that that technology is already with Pakistan.
Absolutely.
So if that technology is with Pakistan, we have to get that technology. We have to be capable. And if Pakistan is putting under its arm these huge irregular forces who are now educated enough to deal and to operate these drones in the grey zone warfare, then we should be prepared to deal with the grey zone warfare.
So
Whether we put people under arms or whether we educate our own population, there's a necessity. And that's my argument, is that over the next 50 years, we're going to be continuously facing this threat. This threat is not going to go away. And Karthik, the thing was, in my long experience, I used to always say that I've outlined the changes, if you've seen, the changes from when I first got into, Kashmir, when we were first taking on the Kashmiris in 84, 85, there was no problem at all. But slowly by slowly, we saw the radicalization of that population in 89, 90, when we went there. It was a totally different Pakistan, Jammu and Kashmir. We were in Uri in 1991. In 91, I was in Kazigund, and we saw the changes that were happening. It was the JKLF, then the Hizbul Mujahideen, then the Lashkar-e-Toiba. At each case, there was a greater percentage of radicalization. And now, when you talk through our younger colleagues who are fighting them, uh, you find that these people are trained. These people are trained to deal with a
you know
lot of other issues that we
I,
were not trained.
I
We didn't know that they were trained for.
when you talk about techno-Islam, these are the words from your book, techno-Islamism, cyber brigade and the keyboard caliphate. I was just thinking that how information war is so integral to the hybrid warfare,
Absolutely,
and
absolutely,
how there are levels of information war, because there's an addition of AI in today's information war. So
absolutely.
in
Yes,
this context, in hindsight, sir, we won, Operation Sindhu, devastated Pakistan. But why was Pakistan narrative war doing better than ours? What is that lesson, sir, we need to learn? Because now narrative war, information war is part and parcel of the war,
absolutely,
where we
Karthik.
could have done better, sir.
Of course, we should have done better. And I've outlined that clearly, that we should have done better. We should have known that the narrative war is going to be a part and parcel of the situation. And I put it down there
Yes.
at 3:15 or 3:45. Our planes actually took off at 3:15 in the morning. By 3:45, Pakistan was already on Twitter, already on X, giving out complete stories. You had the Al Jazeera, you had all the Turkish television, you had the Chinese television, you had the West Asian television, you had all over the world, the Islamic world, saying that Pakistan had been attacked by India. Not talking of the fact that we were forced to counter their terror operations in Pahalgam. So we have to decide, Karthik, that not only should we have the capability to have the kinetic part of the warfare, we should also be capable of dealing with the narrative war. And for that, it requires a different kind of structure, which we still haven't made. Because our voice, the government's voice, has to counter the complete Pakistan West Asian narrative. And unless we do that, and we have people all over the world who are going to speak for us, we're going to be always on the back foot as far as this is concerned, Karthik.
General John, before I come to India's counter strategy in the issues you raised in the next war, I would like to draw your attention to a line which you used. Force multiplier became force destabilizer, which is Islamization. Okay. Now, Field Marshal Asim Munir is built in the same tradition of Ziaul Haq, General Ziaul Haq. He is a person who has spent time as a Fauji in a seminary. He took time off and went there. So we are dealing with a person who deeply believes in the two-nation theory, one. And he's profoundly impacting the function of the Pakistani army, the character of the Pakistani army, the only general to do so. Can you shed some light before I get into other parts of your book? Because I don't think your book is complete before you tell us how's Asim Munir rechanging the character of the Pakistani army? What are we going to deal with in next 10 years whenever he demits his office?
Karthik, you've taken your mind back to Zia. So you can see that the leadership of the Pakistan army is slowly moving towards much greater radicalization. And radical regular forces combined with radical irregular forces are a huge force multiplier for Pakistan. Secondly, there is no logic, Karthik, for when you're fighting somebody and he wants to die, it makes it that much more difficult for us to actually fight him because he wants to die. In every kind of operation there, like I said, in 1991, it was easier to get surrenders from these people when we surrounded them. By 95, 97, 2001, and finally when I was the brigade commander in Shopia, Pulwama, between 2007 and 2009, it was extremely difficult. You had to kill him. He had to die. And that created a greater problem for us. And the same thing is going to happen with the character of the Pakistan army. It's not going to be the army of 1971. It's going to be an army which is going to fight to the finish. And they will have the weapons, the latest weapons, because China is going to give it to them. They will have the capability of the media because Turkey and the Islamic world in West Asia is going to give it to them. And now you've seen even the fact that the United States of America, despite all the issues that Pakistan has done to them, still are pushing Pakistan onto center stage. So India is fighting a difficult war, Karthik. We're fighting a difficult war on all fronts. We're fighting a war to be understood. We're fighting a war to defend our country. We're fighting a war to get technology on the stage. And these are the issues that I thought I must bring about. Because somewhere, whenever we have conversations, people simply don't understand the various dimensions of this war that we are facing.
So
and
then,
I thought I must pen it down.
What should be the Indian counter strategy? Because in Kashmir, you used the word, it was very comprehensive. We were not only able to deal with Pakistan in terms of teaching them a lesson, but the outreach of the state became very profound, very deep. Certain laws were changed, done away, special projects were run. Army also did a great job from, I think, early 2000, they were running Sadbhavna. I remember as a defense correspondent, you sent me there. I saw those Sadbhavna centers. This is 24 years ago.
Absolutely.
But then, in last 10 years, the government took on different initiative in Kashmir. I mean to say integrated it. You have a UT of Ladakh also. But now how do you deal with this sort of a warfare? Post-Pahalgam, you start your book with Pahalgam. We are dealing with post-Pahalgam reality and Operation Sindoor, which is on pause. So in this context, when we say about India's counter strategy, how do we deal with this enemy which is only operating in the fog of war? So you don't know whether there is a war or no war. Your words in the book.
So my idea for writing this book, Karthik, was to bring this point to the fore, that this is the kind of warfare we're going to face. My suggestions to the decision shapers and the decision makers would be, continue doing what you're doing and do it much, much better. The state has to be a whole of government approach. We have to be clear about the fact that the reality is that Kashmir has a population that tends to be radicalized from the other side. And that radicalized group, not just in Kashmir, in various pockets of our country, need to be re-educated. And re-educated with technology, with various other issues. If Pakistan can add coding and technology to their madrasa education, there is no reason why we can't do this in our schools, why we can't bring this in our situations, why we can't bring it to the entire population. Radicalization, de-radicalization using deep fakes is an issue that I find even educated people falling into this trap. And unless we are clear about this trap, and unless we are continuously told that this is a trap, and unless the government takes full attempts to, immediately say that, okay, this is a deep fake, this is a deep fake, and we create institutions that have actually the capability that moment you reach that institution, you know that this institution talking the truth. So the credibility of our institutions has to improve. We have to first deal with our own population, then we have to deal with the rest of the world. And we have to get our own population to believe the kind of threats that we are going to face, not just from Pakistan, but from this entire world that is in our periphery.
I'm reading your book. I also felt that sort of a pang of jealousy and anger when you use, when you argue that, world does not allow Pakistan to fail. When you say that the world does not allow Pakistan to fail, so the two questions came to mind. One, is it because of its strategic location and it being custodian of nuclear bombs? One, or is there other reason? Because it's a state dominated by army and Punjabis, where Sindhis, Pakhtuns, and Baluchis have not much say in the power structure. That's number one. And secondly, there have been times where secessionist movements were there, but then everyone came and helped Pakistan to survive. So then, how do you deal with this enemy who, despite so much of internal issues that you captured in the chapter, the internal wars, but the world comes and helps this guy around, with money, with weapon, with some sort of a photo op in White House, doesn't allow the state to fail, which is an artificial construct.
Absolutely, Karthik. The idea was to bring focus to this construct, to say that, look, we need to be together on this issue. We need to understand the threats we're going to face, and this threat is only going to increase. And that's the center point, the center part of my complete narrative is this: that whether I'm talking of counter strategy, whether I'm talking of telling our country about the kind of threats we face, the underlying feeling is uh, the message here is that firstly, understand this war. Secondly, deal with it as a whole of nation approach. Thirdly, as a population, know that we're going to face. And fourthly, when we are talking to various types of populations in our country, have the ability to re-educate them, to tell them about all these issues. There is a lot of work to be done in these gaps that we have to fill, Karthik, to secure our country. And we are a large country. We're looking at being a superpower by 2047. These are the threats we face to our being a superpower.
And last question
Those
before I let
threats I'm going to go with.
before I let go of you, your last chapter is called the next war, the silent war. What do you think should be or will be India's response if Pakistan does something like Pahalgam ever again?
Firstly, Karthik, you must remember that we should never tie ourselves down to a response.
Okay.
That's the first issue. And we have talked about it, you and me have talked about it on our shows very often, that world doesn't need to know what our response is going to be. The, the idea that we responded during a Pahalgam terrorist attack with Op Sindoor is good enough to know that there will be a kinetic response. How, when, in what form it takes, it depends on us. There is no hurry. And that itself should be the basis of our reaction. The idea that we can hurt a country if parts of that country or part of those forces of that country which has been unleashed on us cause destruction within our country. Why should we tell anybody what our response should be? But we will respond, and we will respond hard, and we will respond with a hammer if required. But nobody needs to be told what we're going to do. It should be like, when I was commanding the strike corps in 2015, I had 22 plans in my head. All those plans were, if this doesn't happen, this is going to happen. If this doesn't happen, that will happen. So similarly, we should have 30, 40 plans. And when we unleash, it should be from the least likely known direction. But at the same time, I have identified the gaps that we have, and those gaps have to be filled now.
Absolutely, sir. Your book is a great read, and hope to see you soon.
Did you
And
like it?
oh, I loved it. I loved it.
Thank you so much.
It was a little rush read, but I loved it.